Morning. I was just firing up Discord to see if that's there. It's all good if it's not. I mean, I'll have somebody on from the CCA, so there's something to talk about anyways. Good morning. It is not 11 o'clock. It's almost 5. Yes, thank you. I know the Popcast is live. CCA's mentioned? You're in for a surprise. This would be a lot of CCA going on today. Heyo, Sam, Falco, Pinky, Keon, Arbiter, Ol' Harry. Ol' Harry. Yeah, good old Harry. CCA is definitely a sub-community within the community. 100%. It's like a sub-community within the low level, which is a sub-community of the community. Double sub-routine situation going on there. Falco, I thought your tweet about the DivX was that was hilarious. Please forfeit. Okay. Since you asked so nicely. Oh man. At this rate, Red Sun's gonna be your DivX champions. Manny being Manny. I often say showing up is half the battle. In DivX, showing up is like 80% of the battle. And the game is just the other 20%. It boggles my mind, Hoenn, looking back at... There's a lot of people I forgot played in low ink. Or won low ink. Like half of Crush Soda played in low ink. I forgot Pelu was on the Deep Fried Octolings. So there's a lot of low ink representation in the amongst the top teams we get. Hello, friends, and welcome back to the Popcast. Whenever you're listening to this, whether it be live or a VOD, Twitch or YouTube, or Spotify. While you were asking why a team that changed their rosters after divs came out and didn't fill out the registration form got the div that they got, trying to win a looting game with Quad Big Swig, dropping from SOS because, quote, my dorm has a trash can full of weed that was on fire and I cannot get back to my setup for at least another hour, end quote. Whatever it is that you're doing right now, I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to listen to this. Unless I don't. Hey, tomorrow, for a good chunk of you, is Election Day. To all of our friends over in Europe, I don't know if you guys even know what an election is. Sorry, not sorry, but for those of us here in the States, tomorrow is Election Day. And any day where I get paid to stay home is a very important day to me. But also, voting is very important if you are eligible to do so. There's a lot of key things going on in several states. A lot of very significant things can be voted on in Ohio, I found out this morning. Not just between politicians, but certain amendments you guys can vote for. The only thing, I've already voted. The only thing I can vote for is the mayor. There's only one other race and it's unopposed. But still, go out and vote. It's important. This stuff is important. Don't let anybody try to trick you into thinking that it's not. News of tournaments may be of interest to the casual listener. of the Popcast. 20XX is taking place this upcoming weekend. There's going to be 2 streams for it. The main stream on Dapple Productions, a side stream on IPL. I'll be doing a preview for this tournament on Friday, hosting special guest Baja Blast, who I believe I had on last time I did a 20XX preview. So we're happy to do that yet again. If you're looking for a warm-up for 20XX, Proving Grounds is taking place this upcoming Friday, and we've switched to the double elimination format and are using the same map pool that 20XX is using. So if you're a team that is rusty, as a lot of the top-level teams appear to be right now, Proving Grounds might be the right kind of tune-up you're looking for right before this major tournament going on this weekend. Also, as a side note, Breeze, for those of you going to Breeze, the pass cutoff for the tournament is this Saturday, is this upcoming Saturday, November the 11th. I don't know what time, and I don't know what that means specifically, if you can't register after the 11th. But if you're planning on going to Breeze, you're running out of time to do that. Might as well sign up sooner rather than later. Again, we will be covering that here on the podcast to some extent, even though that is on another continent. That is still an awesome event. I hear lands across the pond can get pretty rowdy, and I'm all for that if that is the case. Today we are going to be chatting with DRF of the CCA. I believe the second time we're going to have DRF here on the podcast. I've hinted at it before in the past that we were going to have somebody from the CCA on for this to talk about this past season, and it's the perfect time to do so for all the college Splatoon students that listen to the podcast too. But first, let me start off by saying the low ink registration on Saturday, while it was as fair as we could make it given the circumstances, just felt so dirty. It felt so wrong. It legitimately felt like we were announcing a Taylor Swift concert, and this is the time that you could buy tickets for it. So we opened registration at 1 p.m. Eastern time. We told everyone we were going to do that. I think we gave everyone a 4-day notice, and we limited it at 60 teams, 5 players per team, so that we could get the exact 300 number. We weren't even going to go one player over. And, I opened a registration, and as soon as I opened a registration and made the announcement in the announcement channel, I looked at the participants, and, of course, Overtime was the first team to sign up. So I was like, all right, I'll ping Elemental in the general chat and just be like, yep, shouldn't be surprised about that. After I did that, I went back and just out of curiosity, hit the refresh the button on the page, and it jumped from 1 team to 7 teams registered and 23 teams pending, and this was before we hit the 1-minute mark. Within 3 minutes, Low Ink had filled up all 60 teams, all 300 players, and we had already, we left registration open, but the spots were filled in 3 frickin' minutes. That is both hilarious and sad at the same time. Not sad in the sense that so many people were looking forward to signing up for this event. It's sad in the sense that we had to do that to you guys. That's why I'm saying it felt so wrong. It felt so cruel to set up the thing like that. If you weren't on Discord, if you got onto Discord at 1:04 p.m., it was already too late. Your team cannot play in low ink. That sucks. But again, I don't feel bad from how we did it. I feel like the way we set it up is the best that we could do. But it doesn't mean it still doesn't feel weird. Oh. So why did we have to do it that way? Well, as I mentioned before, previous episode of the Popcast, Nintendo recently put out some new community rules. If you're not a licensed tournament, here's what you need to do to stay underneath our guidelines. And could we have just run low ink as usual? Quite honestly, probably. If I'm being honest with you, maybe we could have done it. Do we want to try to test that bear right now, considering we are going to apply for a licensure for low ink? No. And another reason why I'm not super pressed, or none of the head TOs for low ink are super pressed in trying to push forward with normal low ink, is this is kind of an opportunity for us to do some things we've been wanting to do anyways. I've talked about in the past how I'm very curious how ladder specifically works on Battlefy, and we as the head TOs have discussed amongst ourselves, like, it would be a good idea for us to do a one-off ladder tournament at some point. Not as like this is a normal low ink, but we'll just keep the low ink skill cap, but we'll just let in a certain number of teams as just guinea pigs, just so we can see how ladder works through Battlefy, like the little tricks and things like that we want to learn just by letting the tournament run and us discovering things for themselves. I don't need an example of what are the pros and cons of ladder. I already know that. I don't need to know how much time these are going to take, or there's things about ladder we already know. And I've already talked about how I don't want ladder to become the format for low ink. But I've also alluded to the fact that once we eventually hit 257 teams sign up for our tournament, we can't do the format we've been doing before, and we have to do something else. And if we get to a point to where we decide ladder is that something else we want to do, I would much rather us have at least one tournament underneath our belt where we know as TOs how the ladder format works on Battlefy, instead of trying to figure it out while also balancing an ungodly number of teams that are playing in a low ink. So that's something we've wanted to do anyways, and it just so happens this is the perfect month for us to do something like that. Also, it's an excuse to run another high ink. Now, we didn't run a high ink last year after running it the 2 years prior. Why is that? High ink is JPEG's baby, and JPEG has been pretty vocal on the record saying, of all the things JPEG has done, high ink is by far the most stressful thing he's done in this community. And, me, Hoenn, and Brush are going to find out why, I guess, in a couple of weeks. Mainly, I totally get it. And I've been a part of those high inks in the past, both as a player in the first one and helped TO for the second one there. But it's not just a normal invitational. You're basically reviving dead teams, and you're putting limitations on them, where you can only play as players, or as the team that you were back when you played in low ink, with like some little variants here and there, but mostly we just want the same kind of teams playing against each other. And it's difficult for people to meet those kind of timelines and also play on this one day at this one specific time. So we're hoping that the application process we're doing this time around, instead of just inviting the teams that we wanted to invite, is ultimately going to work out. And if it doesn't, then, well, JPEG gets to say he told us so. But yeah, this month, it just kind of worked out. We get to not break any of the rules with the community guidelines. Not that I think anybody would care, but still it helps for our sanity that's something we don't have to worry about this month while we're getting a license. And we still get to accomplish a lot. Us testing this new format on Battlefy and seeing if this new way of getting teams in high ink will benefit us down the road. Like, these are two different things that could really benefit a lot of people, not just within low ink, but people that are banned from low ink as well, with the tournaments that we do down the road. So this is still a very beneficial situation for us. Unfortunately, we knew that going down this path would set us up for people turning low ink into a martyr, we are the biggest tournament that is affected, the biggest monthly, regularly occurring tournament that is affected by the community guidelines within the Splatoon community. And it makes sense that people are going to look at us hindering ourselves or limiting ourselves as a sign that doomsday is approaching, that this is Armageddon. And that annoys me. And I get it, though. I totally get it. But my annoyance comes from the fact that, as we've mentioned several times, we are very confident that this scene is going to be just fine based off of some additional information that we've kind of found out over the course of the past upcoming weeks, or the past week or so. So where does this confidence come from that this is just a one-off Loink thing, and that the next December Loink, before we've even before we've even seen what the license form is, where does this confidence come from? Well, more information has come out in a private way since last Monday when I talked about this on the Popcast. I'm not going to leak specifics or anything like that because we've basically been told, well, like, it seems like everyone's going to find out some stuff later on anyways. But I will say this. Obviously, there are a gajillion people within the Splatoon community that have connections to Nintendo and have a way to find answers, or at least like specific questions. They can find ways to get things asked. So with those kinds of conversations that we've had, not just like IPL, but like other TOs in general know about these conversations, it makes us all feel like, oh, okay, this isn't as bad as it initially appeared to be, and might also be a really good thing for us going forward. Oh, based off of the things that I've been learning the past week, again, I'm not going to leak specifics, but I will say where my head is at right now. I'm getting the sense that the line that's in the community guidelines that basically says it's at Nintendo's discretion if they want to intervene in things or not. I'm getting the sense that Nintendo's discretion is going to be extremely chill, especially when it comes to the Splatoon side of things, which is odd considering Nintendo's history of shutting down Smash events. But the vast majority of the big headline stuff was the Big House being shut down because they were using Slippy, which was a modded version of Melee, and the whole Panda fiasco from last year. But I always found it weird that Nintendo didn't shut down Squid House, and that Squid House was able to operate with no issue. If you're wondering what the Squid House is, that is one of the first major events I covered here on the Popcast back in December of 2020. Almost, I think it was episode like 20 or something like that. To give you a quick recap, Big House gets canceled, I believe like a month ago before this happened, because they were using Slippy. It was during the pandemic, so they were trying to do an online Big House. Nintendo said, no, we're not doing that. There just so happened to be a Nintendo Splatoon tournament right after that. And the vast majority of the teams that signed up for it changed their names to Save Smash or Free Melee. Well, a lot of the teams that finished in the, I think 3 of the 4 teams that finished in the top 4 all had their name as Save Smash or Free Melee. And instead of streaming that on the Nintendo stream with these team names as that, they announced, due to some unforeseen issues, we're not going to have a stream for this event. Sorry about that. To which that sparked a whole big bang across the entire scope of the Nintendo esport world, which ultimately led to in-game TV saying, what if we took the 4 teams that made the finals, and instead of them playing on Nintendo's tournament tomorrow, we offer them a prize and they play on our tournament instead? And all 4 teams said, hell yeah, we'll sign up for that. And what resulted in was this one-day single-limb tournament between 4 teams, and the total prize that was distributed amongst those 4 teams was $25,000 that was fundraised in one day, mainly by the Smash community because they all tuned in to support us for supporting them during that event. That tournament violates like 20 or more community guidelines under what Nintendo currently has right now. They did nothing about that. And there's no way they didn't know about it because the teams literally said, F you guys, we're going to go play in this other tournament. And we're not going to play in that. What happened to the trophies for that tournament, by the way? The prize for that Nintendo tournament was actual trophies. Where are they? Those are historical artifacts. But Nintendo did nothing about that. Now, maybe now that there's guidelines out, if that situation were to happen again, there might be something stepping in. But that's just another point of the history of these things being like, where is their line? What is the discretion that they're talking about of where they really want to put their foot down and say, no, you guys can't do this, and where they say, it'd be a bad idea if we shut this down. Let's just let this puppy kind of ride out. Also, it's been heavily hinted at that the licensing process is going to be smooth, easy, and without a registration fee. In fact, it seemed almost insulting that anyone would think there would be a registration fee for this. That is very promising, and that is, that remains to be seen. Who knows? Maybe all that changes when the application finally comes out, but just from a glance, it seems like the licensing process, where in the past, before these guidelines, everyone said it takes years or months to get it accomplished. This time around, it doesn't really seem that bad of a deal. It just seems more like Nintendo trying to figure out what exactly is going on, because I don't think they really know. I genuinely don't think they know low ink is a thing, which is humbling, but also kind of like okay, you're just trying to figure this stuff out, so be it. Things could possibly be better than ever with these community guidelines changes. It's not a death sentence. That's the sense that I'm getting. This could be the support that we've been looking for from our developer all along. It might not be the exact support that we want specifically, but it's better than nothing, and it could lead to things down the road. There's been a lot of questions about what does the sponsorship stuff kind of mean. The sense I'm getting, as long as you're not being sponsored by Microsoft, Sony, or Pornhub, you're probably going to be fine. And again, this is all up in the air, and this could all go out the window when we get the actual form. But just the sense that I'm getting has been nothing but positive, especially from where we were 2 weeks ago when this was just dumped on everybody. And we're like, what the hell is this? And as we're learning more and more about it, it's more, things are seemingly calming down across the board. Let me give you guys this odd comparison for where I see the future of the competitive scene right now, 2 weeks after the community guidelines coming out, so that we can learn some more about this stuff. Did you guys may or may not remember this. I don't even know if this is a thing anymore or not. When I was in elementary school, everyone had those milk cartons, and those are still a thing. I know milk cartons are still a thing. But around my first or second grade, like 1997, 98, the milk cartons were switched with these weird bags of milk things. And I don't know how to describe it other than to show you guys a picture, because I'm pretty sure a lot of you don't know what I'm talking about. But instead of milk cartons in elementary school, we had this. This is real. It was just a package of milk. And they gave you this little Capri Sun straw. And in order to like drink out of it, you had to hold it down so that you could get the bubble. And then you basically, like you're banishing Dracula from this world, you impale it. And then you just kind of like slurp it up like that. And you saw the whole bag like shrivel up as you were drinking it. Now, this was weird. And a lot of kids my age really sucked at this. I'm not gonna lie. Like you'd have kids just like stab it all the way through, and then it just bleeds out all over your tray, and then they would just drink it straight out of the tray. But what was the reason behind this? I think it was these were more environmental friendly. I can't confirm that. Falco's saying carton shortage. Maybe that is. I also wonder if this is a little bit cheaper than going with the carton method. And if that's the case, so be it. My point being, with the milk situation changing, at the end of the day, it was still milk. Things are going to be changing with the Splatoon side of things. The shell that maybe competitive Splatoon is over is going to change from carton to bag, and it's going to be weird. But at the end of the day, it's still going to be the same competitive Splatoon we know and love. That is the sense that I'm getting from where things have been going in the just learning about more about these things going forward. I want to stress this, though. I reserve the right to change my tune about all of this if we find out more information from these community guidelines and everything just goes to hell. And if that does, you guys know I will be the first person beating the drum, riling up everybody to go after Nintendo to talk about how much they suck. They already screwed up this situation. The communication across the board, just from Nintendo to the other Nintendo organizations down to us, has been unacceptable. Absolutely unacceptable. It's beyond embarrassing on their part. But as we weed through the crap, I think we're starting to realize, okay, this isn't the end of the world we thought it was when we woke up on Tuesday morning. I reserve the right to change my mind for that. But again, I'm still hopeful that this is just a situation where we're going from carton milk to bag milk. It might be gross and weird, but eventually we'll get used to it. And then, I guess maybe 4 or 5 years later, we'll go back to carton milk when all of this falls apart. More updates to come. I feel like this is a story that is going to continuously be talked about here on the Popcast, with how, because information is just coming and going. And again, there's a lot of things I'm not going to tell you guys just because it's just not time to tell things yet. And I'm sure things will come out anyways. But I'm not concerned as of right now. We'll see how that changes a week from now. Hohen left a highlighted message. For those of you calling Doomsday, I replied to a similar question in the SOS general chat in the public IPL server. Give it a read. I'm happy to answer any follow-up questions I can. And you know, that's so weird. And that's another reason why I don't want Loink to become a martyr, is because I feel like we're trying to keep the soul of the competitive community intact. And it's not our fault. Again, Nintendo dumped this on all of us, and we have to figure this out immediately. But I think once people start to calm down a little bit, and that's what I'm trying to do with this Loink, is get people to realize we're changing this. It's temporary. It's just a change that's going to benefit everyone. And it's not coming from a place of this is the end of the world. Please don't buy into that yet. And if it is the end of the world, we'll go down together. And I'll show you guys how to stab your milk without spilling it all over your tray. I'm pretty sure it was an environmental thing. Or it had to be cheaper, or some combination of the two. I don't know. Anyways, let's get to the point of why Sam is actually here today. It's time for the weekly recap. SOS number 127 was won by Velocity. Takes second place, and Cherry Limeade rounds out your top three. Yes, Cherry Limeade had already announced that they are disbanding at the end of Ludi's season. That doesn't mean they're still not going to play in tournaments while Ludi season's going on. I love the fact that Cherry Limeade is continuing to play out their season and are still playing in tournaments to make sure they're fresh for their Ludi season, even though that they're going to be gone for the foreseeable future. Velocity doesn't have to worry about that. They're not disbanding, and they're still going strong, winning yet another. I believe this is their second SOS victory. Hammerhead was won by Demolition Breakdown 1 Mako bracket, and Lantern was won by Dota 2 Fan Club. Idle, number 3, was won by Pooh, which was a pickup essentially of Bagel, Goss, Ants, and Ice, I believe, are the teams that made up that one. Jackpot takes second place, and Moonlight rounds out your top 3. The rules for this edition of Idle: no special charge up, no V shots. You can only use one Zuka in your comp, and you can't have more than two specials repeating outside of that. There's also a limitation on weapon classes to use. I don't think you can use more than one shooter. This isn't supposed to be what the scene should be. This isn't supposed to be like, this is the most important change that we should see in tournaments going forward. But still, looking at it from that perspective, you get the sense of, like, if we ever did adopt community rules for tournaments as far as like restricting things goes, this seems fair. It doesn't seem like overstepping. It doesn't seem like, well, now we just got to use quad octobrush because that's the only thing that works. Like, you can still do a lot of things underneath these guideline restrictions. It just kind of prevents everyone from doing triple machine or triple crab or whatever that we've been doing. It kind of limits the possibility of more spamming, which is what the community has kind of went to since missiles became a thing in Splatoon 2. 4v4 Sundays took place on Sunday. Alliance Rogue won this tournament. Bet took second place, and Talking Flower gets the bronze medal. This was a wild tournament. Only 16 teams played in this 4v4 Sunday. Who cares? As long as you get the right kind of teams and you can create the right kind of matches that are interesting, that's all that matters. You don't need a lot of teams. You just need the right teams to sign up for this one. You had some really crazy upsets in this one, and I'll talk more about that and how it impacts 20XX on Friday. But I'm going into that 20XX based off of this Idle and 4v4 Sunday tournament took place this past weekend, thinking this is still Jackpot's era, but this is anything but a guarantee they're going to win this upcoming tournament if they even end up playing it. I haven't checked the rosters for that yet. Big Dapple number 3 took place this past weekend, November the 4th. It was won by New York Rats, which is made up of Power, Toon, Hunty, and Zero. Second place went to, oh gosh, I left the standing page, and now I don't know who took second or third place. Papa Garley took second place. It was Marsh, Keen, Dreas, and The Berry. And I can't look up who made third place anymore because it left the thing, and who cares? You made third place. Sucks to suck. Anyway, 17 teams played in this edition of the Big Dapple, which is a New York land that seems to be happening pretty consistently nowadays. I had Cactus one last time. Big Dapple 2 went around, and this is an event where I need to get out to it at some point. It's going to be a while before PJ is able to move around, but this looks like a really cool event that took place in New York City. Ludi matches of note. In Div 6, the Ink Vaders got a 5-4 win over the Chariots. Div 8, Dark Matter got a 5-3 win over CRAB. Div 9, Seasick 5-3 over the Hive Mind. Div 1, Zenith 5-4 over Vivid. And Div 4, possibly the match of the year, Free Flow got a 5-4 win over Honda Squivik in a absolute barn burner. The NFL, the Rams played a game against the Packers, losing 3-20. The Steelers pick up a win 20-16 over the Titans. Chiefs 21-14 over the Daltons in Germany. The Colts play the Patriots in Germany next week. And I completely screwed that up. There we go. And that was your weekly recap. Sponsored by the New England Splatoon Tournament that took place this past weekend. I did not mention it because, A, I'm talking about 6 gazillion things in the weekly recap now. I don't want to take up too much time. And if the Splatoon, if the NES tournament takes place again in the future, I'll spend more time talking about it. Just some quick stats about that. About 30 folks came out and played in that event. And I believe AirSign was there because I saw them post a picture of them watching grand finals about it. So, the New England Splatoon Tournament, the local in the Boston area, is the official sponsor of today's segment of the weekly recap. CJ Stroud. I dropped him on my fantasy team last week for Will Levis. It's really weird. Both 4v4 and Idle had way less signups than they usually get. In general, I noticed normal tournaments getting a bit less attention. Yeah. Yeah, a lot of tournaments. SOS is not hitting their 64. I see Squid Junction's getting like less than 30. It's just across the board, like a Ludi burnout, I would assume. I feel like this happens every Ludi season. They'll be back. They'll always be back. And if they're not, we'll just if not, we'll just all switch over to a Mega Strikers or whatever. Oh, too soon. Oh boy. Oh boy. Let's get this situated here. And then oh gosh. I completely screwed up something here. Do you know what? Fine. No, know what? We're just gonna roll with it. I think this looks great here. Let's turn this off. Let's transition over.
You've done with the place.
Well, okay, so new overlay, and let's just say your face is taking up like the entire portion of it. So this is not a you issue. This is a me thing, as we get it. Brush is gonna kill me for this, but here we go.
I'll like back up a little bit, and maybe that'll be a bit better.
That's fine. Hey, you got a beautiful face, and I gave you plenty of heads up. You said you had to fix your hair. That's something I don't have to deal with, but you look fantastic. Welcome into
Thank you.
Welcome into the Popcast. Founder and TO of the CCA. Member of the Camp Triggerfish Supremacy, and 4th place finisher at Riptide 22 with the Ink Lawyers. DRF. How's morale today in the CCA world, DRF?
It's pretty fantastic. I mean, the season is going strong, and things are looking pretty good. So how's my fellow Ink Lawyer doing?
I'm doing great. Now, you know, I didn't play a single game in that. We were 5 people in that team, and I was the first person off. But I will admit, there are a couple of times where I was like, ooh, Hydra will work out really well here. But, like, I hadn't even touched the game the entire weekend. I couldn't just hop in and do it. But I mean,
you could. We thought about it several times, and we were like, Popgun's standing right there. Like, we could go and get him right now for this.
That's one of the few times in competitive Splatoon history we could bring in our Hydra off the bench, and that would really help us. Yeah, sure. What does DRF stand for?
So it's just my initials. So I am largely uncreative. So if you talk to TZS, don't always just call me David. That's my first name. And then you can take your guesses as to what the rest of it is, but it's just my initials.
There we go. David Reginald Fartanugan. Fair enough. Are you still
pretty close?
Are you still on Triggerfish?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Boasting a roster 7 strong now, which is very atypical for mid level.
when you joined the team, was it because of the players, or do you legitimately think Camp Triggerfish is a good map?
So I have always had a soft spot for Camp Triggerfish. That has always been one of my favorite maps in the game. So when we actually put together the roster, the TLDR of it is that Vapor and I said, "Hey, let's play Ludi together," and we said that we would each bring in one person. So I brought in Monster John from the UCSD roster back in the day, and then Vapor brought in Kraken, and we all basically said we love Triggerfish, and somehow that became the team name because I think we all had our highest win rate in Splatoon 2 on very specifically Splat Zone's Camp Triggerfish, except for me, but I loved the map enough that I was okay with it.
Okay, my highest win rate was Kelp Dome in Splatoon 2, but you don't see me going off on this tirade of trying to like spread positive propaganda about it. Okay, but yeah, so be it. Okay, we got to start off with this. 2 weeks
Yes.
ago, you woke up on Tuesday to the same crap storm the rest of us did.
Yep.
And it probably uniquely affected you guys in a different way than it affected the rest of us, or at least some of the things I was reading through. What I want to know is what was your or the CCA's initial reaction on that Tuesday, and where are you guys now? Like, how are you guys feeling now?
Yeah. So the initial gut reaction was, "Oh crap." It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
Because we started going through it and we were like, okay, well, the first kicker that got everybody was that very first note of 300 players maximum. And we were like, great. How many did we have this season? 708? Fantastic. So we're already screwed there. And then we started to scroll down and then we were like, oh, shoot, we're going to get hit by 2 other clauses that no other organization is going to get hit by. And that's one being the college section. But we kind of read through that a couple times, and at least the way we are currently interpreting it is that we should be fine because that rule about colleges and the community tournament guidelines is if the college is the host of a tournament. And that specific rule states that if you have more than 2 college clubs playing in an event, you need to get a license. So, as you can probably imagine, we were sweating bullets on that point alone because we're like, damn, like now it's no longer the 300 rule. We're talking about 2 teams as
Right.
the rule. So yeah, it was really, really stressful, but we kind of realized with that one, at least the way we interpret now, is that that's only if the college is hosting it. So the CCA should be fine, but there's a lot of other little events that you will see regionally start to pop up. Those people are going to get affected by it because we've seen collegiate lands occur at the University of North Carolina, Greensboro, at University of Florida, I believe, hosted one. So that's the part that's going to be a little bit more difficult to navigate, and we need to now position ourselves to assist these universities to be able to run their events. If they don't want to get a license, then they could possibly run it through us, but that's still an ongoing conversation, so we don't really know yet, but it's something we're looking at.
Now, I feel like some of these sections we're talking about high school stuff specifically, and I think the general mindset is, oh, they don't want people competing with play versus, which is what they already got going on with the high school stuff. Which fine, I don't want to do a high school tournament anyway. But are there any, to your knowledge, any other orgs like either a play versus or a grassroots thing that focuses exclusively on college Splatoon, or are you guys the only one?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. So we have actually had conversations with other major collegiate esports organizations that were interested in bringing Splatoon to them. Unfortunately, those conversations didn't pan out all the way, so those orgs have not brought on Splatoon as of yet. But it is something that I'm sure would be revisited down the line. But to answer, the flip side of it here is there's also, yes, there is another collegiate Splatoon organization out there called the NSE, but they focus on the UK. So they've been operating for, I believe, a year now. And their current season, I want to say they have about 36 collegiate teams from the UK, which is pretty cool, actually. So we've been trying to, for lack of a term, we've been stalking them a little bit, trying to figure out, what is this organization, what's going on, and is there potential for a collab? Because I would love to see it happen. But again, we're for now just feeling things out.
I am honestly just now hearing about that. And would you say 30 some odd teams in their first league?
It's their technically second league, because the first time around they did like 2 qualifiers regionally, and I think that got in like maybe 10 to 12 teams total, but then the top 2 from each region actually got to go to Insomnia, which I guess was a LAN in the UK, and they got to have a top 4 collegiate LAN, which was super cool. But for the life of me, I cannot find VODs of the event. I found one interview clip from one of the players on the winning team, and that is it.
Fair enough. Okay, so that's something to look into. When you guys had your first season, I got you down as having 10 teams. So
correct.
Second season for them or not, they're still outpacing you guys. So watch out for that. So let's talk about let's transition from doom and gloom. There is a current season going on. I can't help but notice that there is also another season of a competitive Splatoon league going on at the same exact time. Is
a little one.
Is it fair to say you guys planned this out and then you found out later that Ludi was going to do it over the same time and you had like no choice because of college schedules and stuff?
Oh, absolutely. Because the thing with the CCA is that we are already pigeonholed into a very specific calendar just based on what the traditional, North American school year looks like. So we have already committed to a fall season and a spring season to the best of our ability. So yeah, we had those dates planned out for months. And then a little birdie came into our ear and said, hey, just so you know, there's a good chance that Ludi's going to run about the same time. So we were prepared for it, but it definitely, we weren't expecting it to align exactly. So that part definitely was still a little bit of a shock, but we kind of looked at it and said, this can actually be a good thing for us to run at the same time, because we offer a unique version of Ludi that is catered to just collegiate teams, and some teams will play in both still, but we had no issue running it at the same time. We knew that our audience would, put their trust into us to give them a unique experience that is tailored to that market specifically.
By unique experience, you mean your league can guarantee that when you talk to the other captain on the other team, they at least have their high school diploma underneath their belt, which Ludi can't guarantee for you. But it's amazing to me. I guess it shouldn't come to a surprise, but it's still amazing how many college teams are doing both, like just running both leagues over top of each other. How many teams do you have this season? Do you know the exact number?
Yeah, so we have 130 teams
Whoa.
from 78 universities.
Whoa, okay. I didn't realize it was that big. You had 60 last season, right?
No, that was season 2. Season 3 was 83 teams from 62 universities.
Oh, okay, I got you. So you had a season in the spring too?
Correct.
Okay, and I just completely forgot about it. Dang, so, okay. But still, regardless, from this point last year, because this is roughly when I talked to Mizuno last year, you guys have doubled your amount of teams. How did you double that many teams?
Yeah, so as this kind of is just talking about the general growth of the league and the CCA in general, and there's both quantitative and qualitative responses to that. So obviously when we look at the numbers here, yeah, we're over doubling the number of teams, the number of players, not so much on the university side, because if you actually look at the numbers there, we had 44 universities that were represented in season 2 1 year ago. And now we're at 78 universities. So that in of itself is indicative of a lot of the growth is happening at the markets that we are already tapped into. So the universities that are already competing, they're doing a lot of growth internally. And in response, they've started to bring in more and more teams. This season, you're Popgun, I'm gonna apologize in advance. You're gonna get a few interesting comments in the chat here.
Okay.
But DePaul University has brought out 5 teams this season alone. 5 teams from one university.
DePaul, Paul.
Yes.
Okay. The Blue Devils,
DePaul,
I think, or something like that. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
And
did an announcer did an announcer screw up something at some point? Because there's a lot of balls in my chat right now.
So I'm trying to, I don't know, during the reveal show that Mizuno and I have now made a tradition to kick off every season, I believe it was actually started by my dear teammate Mewtwo, who just thought it would be funny to say the balls, and that's just become a meme that is championed throughout the entire CCA. So,
well, you know what? This does kind of sneakily transition into my next question, because there's a lot of times where I'm talking about a team and I have no clue that they're actually at a college team. Like Ink Black, there's nothing that suggests Ink Black is from VCU, or Grisco Worker Unions is from that school name I can't pronounce without AirSign yelling at me. Why are teams not showing representation towards the school they're from, or are they like not allowed to in some instances?
So yes, you're right on that second half. That actually applies to a lot of teams. So one of the issues that we see is that if you don't have full support from your university, like you are not fully sponsored, you cannot use the university name. So for example, just to pick on one of the teams, Banana Split, you're probably familiar with that team a bit. So they're actually from UC Davis, University of California, Davis, but they cannot use UC Davis in the name because UC Davis doesn't fully sponsor them. So instead, what they do is they will add like EA UCD Banana Split. So that way it's indicated that that's actually esports at UC Davis's team. So there's a lot of technicalities in here because you can't use it if you're not fully sponsored, but then there's other ways that they can still kind of get around it if they're affiliated with a university club, for example. But it's just really, really complicated. But there's some teams that will sort of either just do it anyways, or they'll just do it in the CCA specifically. So for example, Ink Black, in the CCA, they go by VCU Ink Black. And the Grisco Workers Union go by WPI Grisco Workers Union. And the reason for that, on top of it, is that, for example, Ink Black, in the CCA, they are restricted to being to having a roster only composed of members from Virginia Commonwealth University. But their external roster outside of the CCA features Neptune and Space Seals, who come from WPI and William and Mary. So now we're talking about, okay, they aren't even VCU anymore because they have these extra players.
That makes sense. I guess I guess I'm just kind of spoiled with UCSD and ITAP back in the day being like, oh, well, we're playing in college stuff, but we're also playing in all community stuff with the same roster. Fair point to bring up. I'm glad you had an actual answer for that, because I've been griping about that for so long. And it also, like, when you're just trying to recognize teams or like have something to talk about, it's like, oh, why wouldn't you want people to know you're from this university? But there's obviously reasons behind that. One of the things you talked about being endorsed by a university or sponsored. Last year, Mizuno said there wasn't a lot of teams that in the student side of things that had like the endorsement of their university. Has that improved a lot, or there's still like a lot of ways to go with that?
Yeah, so there's certainly been growth in that area, and we've had a lot of teams come to us and say, "Hey, we're trying to get university support. Is there any way that you guys can like either help vouch for us or give us information to help essentially sell their team to their university?" And whenever that comes up, we do everything we can in order to help. So yes, there's been growth. There's been more teams getting sponsored, but it is still limited. So it's just that universities are not really sure how to handle Splatoon. And we still see this even at long-standing schools like UC San Diego, where it's clear that sometimes there's just not like the university doesn't really know how to handle a console game that isn't Smash. Because at least with Smash, it's like, cool, we give you one console, you guys at a TV, you guys are happy. Whereas with Splatoon, we come knocking on the door, we're like, hey, we need 4 setups. If you guys could provide audio gear, that's fantastic. You know, we want capture cards, we need like this other stuff. And they're just like, whoa, 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 whoa. Like, Smash needs like literally a chair and some electricity and they'll have some fun. Like, where are you guys coming from? It's like, this is a different ball game, even though it's the same console.
Or
So yeah, it's a lot of different things.
so like compared to most other esports where okay, just go to the computer lab and you guys are
Yeah.
set up and good to go. Okay, that another enlightening thing that I guess shouldn't surprise you the more you think about it. Um, do you guys still like cold call other schools and universities, just like let them know that you guys exist? I know you guys did that in the past.
Yeah, that was one of our early tactics for the CCA. So we still sort of do it. It just kind of depends. But at this point, we basically wait for teams and universities to come to us, or we just continue to deliver a quality product that people want to talk about and that excites people because now we are fairly easily searchable. We don't have a website yet. That's something that's kind of just been a long-term goal for us because ideally that would be a great spot to just archive everything and make it even more searchable. So one day we'll get there, but even still now, if you just search up collegiate Splatoon, we're like one of the top 2 or 3 results that pop up. So people, if they're just even remotely interested, if a scene exists, they'll get an answer right away just from a quick Google search.
Do you know if you've reached out or if this school's reached out to you, my alma mater, Western Kentucky University? Has there been any contact with the Hilltoppers that you're aware of?
Not that I am aware of. Let me answer that for you because I'm curious
Okay.
now if anyone from Western Kentucky is in the server.
Me.
It's
That's
just
it.
you.
Might be me. Okay, I need you guys to fix that. If Middle Tennessee's got a team, damn it, we need to get a team in there as well. We need another sport we can beat these guys in consistently. So I look, I'm already out of school, so I can't get involved in that. But let's say transitioning to another question here. Let's say there's somebody listening that does go to WKU and they want
Mhm.
to start a team up at their university. How would you advise they go about doing that?
Yeah. So there's never an exact science to this. I think that there's people that think that there is, but there's no perfect strategy. You really need to understand what your school's interest levels are and what your school's resources are because usually the best way to navigate starting a team is to go and look in your university's gaming club or esports discord if one exists. Those are usually the first 2 places we push people towards is like go talk to people that also play the video games because if they play one video game they might play this other silly squid game. So that's always the first step that we push. Then we've also seen a lot of success with people going to Reddit. So that's actually how I found my first team for a tournament at UC San Diego.
Same.
I just posted on Reddit, hey, who wants to play? And I got like 4 or 5 people to respond. I was like, cool, let's do this. And I know San Diego State also had a lot of success via Reddit. But otherwise, social media, sometimes people come to the CCA Discord and they're like, hey, no one from my university plays. It's like, well, actually, quick search here. Yeah, no, there's like 3 other people that are from your university. Go create a group chat, go figure something out.
How's the podcast going?
The podcast is fantastic. So for those people that are not aware, that's kind of our new project of the season. So every season we kind of have a big project that we start up. So season 2, that was the stats. Season 3, we really started to try to elevate production with things like VC drop-ins and replays, live look-ins, etc. So now this season it's the podcast, spelled with 2 C's because that makes it CCA.
Right.
But anyways, so all that to say, it's going very, very well. I've been really looking for ways to take the CCA and do more storytelling with it, because at the end of the day, that's what makes it, interesting to follow the CCA, is that you can start to learn about the intricacies of the teams and the matchups and the teams. You really get to know the teams a little bit more. So with the podcast, we're trying to highlight, hey, here's like the key matchups for this upcoming week and why they matter. Why should you follow these teams? Why should you pay attention to this upcoming stream that has a playoff spot on the line? So and then on top of that, we interview a team every single week. So far, we've done one from each division. We'll have another one this upcoming Thursday as well with a Division 1 team. I don't think we've officially announced it yet, so I will wait to make sure that that's all confirmed. But yeah, and that way you can just start to invest more interest. And at the end of the day, people love to hear about their team. I mean, that's, I'm sure that, for the Popcast as well, a lot of teams come to you and they're eagerly awaiting for you to say their name for mostly good reasons, I'm sure. But even if you, say something like, hey, you guys are a bunch of idiots, they're still excited to hear that too.
Believe it or not, people do like it when you say nice things about them, and they'll come in and pay attention to it. And yeah, I knew you guys were running your thing. I just keep forgetting to 8 o'clock is whenever PJ starts getting down for his nappy nap of the night. But yeah, I saw you guys were doing that, and I was like, okay, cool. And I'm glad that you mentioned it's about telling stories, because yeah, that's the whole point of doing any of this, is for the storyline. And you had somebody in chat earlier in this episode talking about how the college scene seems like a sub community within the community, and it definitely feels like it is kind of a tight knit, at least the sense that I'm getting from you guys.
Oh, absolutely. It's a very unique corner of the community because you're right. It is very, I don't know, it's very community oriented. And I think that's one thing that we continue to push. Because I'll go ahead and quote Magic on this one, or at least paraphrase what he said. Because yes, we are tournament organizers, but at the end of the day, we are community builders first, and that's what we try to lead with. So it's really just about getting these people that all are of the same, background, and that they're college students, to come together, get interested in competitive Splatoon, and many of them use this as a starting place to go and do other cool things, go TO in other orgs, go do commentary and production, or go join other teams and go make a splash elsewhere. So it's really, really cool. And we're definitely looking into more ways to continue to build the community, because we have a lot of ideas on the back burner.
Speaking of building your community, where can people find more information about the CCA?
Yeah. So I think we still have that level 3 server nitro thing, whatever. So if you want to join the server, here, I need to double check this real quick because we just recently got the vanity link. Discord.gg/CCA-Splatoon. Just wanted to make sure it was not an underscore there. So that's where you're going to be able to find most information. We do have the Twitter as well, which is CCA_Splatoon, and Twitch of the same, CCA_Splatoon. Those are the 3 areas that you can find the most information on all things collegiate Splatoon.
What is the arcade game behind you there?
So that is my Pac-Man machine.
Does it work?
So yeah, no, it absolutely works. So it's like Arcade 1-Up or something like that. Does all sorts of retro arcade cabinets that you can just go and buy at like Costco for like $200 or something like that.
Okay, so you didn't just take that from an arcade bar or something.
No,
Nice.
no, no, no.
Okay. All right, fair enough. I didn't know you could buy arcades machines like that. That's pretty cool. Yes, I'm assuming Falco's already knows all about that. Fair enough. Hey,
Yeah, I'm sure Falco's got an inventory list of what you can buy from Costco.
thank you for coming on. This is the second time I've had you on. I think I've had you on like
Yes,
a long time ago.
2 years ago.
Our annual check-in with the CCA, and hopefully you guys continue to grow along with the league out in the UK. And Godspeed to you with the getting a license or whatever you need to
I
do to
know.
keep floating around. We're in the same boat with you there. So
Absolutely, especially I mean sponsors as well. I mean that's kind of the other interesting aspect of this. So we'll have to kind of see. But so far, our sponsors are saying, "Hey, you guys should still be good to go." So we're optimistic.
there you go. I'll still let you guys sponsor the weekly recap, no matter what.
Likewise, likewise. We'll keep a sponsorship spot open for the Popcast any
Let's
week.
go. Let's go. Just don't expect too much with that sponsorship, though. But you can take the name anytime you want.
We'll have a firm handshake next time we see each other in person.
uh, all right. So that was DRF of the CCA. It's good to do a little check-in right there. I talked to Mizuno last time. Talking to DRF this time around. Man, they've really grown. They've grown a lot since the last time. I mean, I know they were going on during the spring. I guess I just forgot about it. Riley usually sends me updates across the board, but that doesn't mean I have to remember things going on. But yeah, 130 some odd teams from 70 different universities. That is incredible. They're doing some great work at the CCA. And something I talked about last year, they're not just introducing people to competitive college Splatoon, they're introducing people to competitive Splatoon in general. There's a lot of people who find out about Low Ink, about Little Squid League, about Ludi, about SOS, about all these tournaments through the CCA, getting involved with that. So they're growing not just their own college scene, they're growing everything else. And bringing more adults into the community is always a nice thing as well. That's the end of today's episode of the podcast. We're going to be doing a preview of 20XX on Friday, same 6 p.m. Eastern time. Guest host Baja, or not guest host, but we're going to have Baja Blast as a guest on for that one. If you'd like to be a part of the podcast anyway, feel free to reach out my socials below. Twitter, Mr_Popgun. Blue Sky, that's just straight up Popgun. And YouTube at 25 Popgun, Twitch at Popgun 25. Till then, make sure you guys are wearing a mask when applicable. Get vaccinated. Stay safe. Go out and vote tomorrow if there's something for you to vote for. And everything just froze. What's up with that? I can't. My entire chat just froze. I can't hit the raid button. Bruh. I might just stop the stream without raiding anybody, honestly. If that's going to be the case. Okay.